Now, I've made a few changes to my FPL draft since I last made one of these videos. I know I've made quite a few now, but I think I'm actually getting somewhere now, and I'm going to talk you through it in this video. Alright, so I've got quite a few bits of stats and data to show you, and I make sure to credit everyone in like all the sources of stats and data that I've gotten. So first up, we've got clean sheet odds here, courtesy of 11ify. So we've got the first 6 game weeks and each team's odds of keeping a clean sheet in that game week. I've gone through this in, I think, pretty much all of my draft videos so far. So to some of you, this might not come as a surprise. But what it gives you is a view of the top teams basically to keep a clean sheet. Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea are the top 4. Now, I do like the Arsenal defence, but I'm a little bit unsure as to whether Gabriel's going to start the season. And I'm not totally convinced of their ability to get the defensive contribution bonus points, which we'll talk about in a second. Liverpool, I think, will be absolutely fine. I've definitely got Liverpool defence coverage in this team. Man City, outside of Guardiola, I'm not 100% sure about their defence this season in terms of who's going to play regularly. It's probably Guardiola and Diaz as the starting two. Aït-Nouri and possibly, I guess, Nunez as like the right back and left back. But I think there's going to be a fair bit of rotation amongst the Man City team. So for the time being, I'm going to stay clear of their defence. Then we got Chelsea, who have a really good opening sort of 5-6 fixtures. Their clean sheet odds are pretty good, 30% or above for the first sort of 6 game weeks. Quite like the Chelsea defence. And they're a little bit cheaper than the rest of the team. So that might give you an idea of some of the players that are in my team. So next up, I wanted to talk about defensive contribution points, right? I think I covered this tweet from my good friend FPL Tom in my last video, but it was talking about how important the defensive contribution points can be. So you'd consider last season Aït-Nouri to be a fantastic asset in FPL, right, for his attacking returns. So he got 4 goals and 7 assists last season. Obviously a really good return from the position that he was in. That bagged him 46 points in total, right, from those attacking returns. Whereas Tarkowski, he scored 44 points from defensive contribution points. So I think that's one tweet there to show you the power of the points. And I think this one should hopefully show you how consistent they can be and like how predictable they can be and how they transform like an FPL asset that does well for them. So what we've got here is a tweet from FPL Tom Hadley, really fantastic Twitter account to follow, by the way. And what he's done is worked out the percentage of games where these players scored less than 2 points, right? Percentage of games last season where these defenders scored less than 2 points. I know I'm repeating myself, but just for effect. Tarkowski did it 15.2 times. So basically, defensive contribution points made Tarkowski as good as an FPL asset as Saliba with that kind of regard, I would say. You got Van Dijk up there as well, Murillo, Lacroix and Guardiola. You know, these are the times that they scored less than 2 points, which basically in summary suggests that Tarkowski was as much as a set and forget as Saliba. This is a less sort of scientific stat, but it just shows how many points each defender or the top scoring defenders had defensive contribution points been in the game last year. So Milenkovic would have been the top scoring defender. I can't remember if he was. No, he wasn't. It was Guardiola, wasn't it, by the looks of it, who was the top scoring defender last season. He scored 26 defensive contribution points. Murillo scored 38. If you convert all of that to attacking returns, right? Murillo, 38 defensive contribution points is like, 12 assists? If Murillo got 12 assists, I've said this on a couple of videos, but I mean, we'd all be picking him in our teams, right? Van Dijk got 22. I suggest that's a pretty good total. He would have been the 3rd top scoring defender in the game last season. Who else have we got? James Tarkowski up there as well, 44. Lacroix of Crystal Palace got 34. Housen, he's obviously at Real Madrid now, he got 38. And I think there's a couple of other players that could do quite well for them as well. I'm looking at Lacroix. I think probably Chris Richards from Crystal Palace could be good. Anderson, the Fulham defender, could be good at 4.5. And I also think Neco Williams is probably going to be quite good from Forest as well. So these aren't necessarily top of the top players, but they're going to rank really well for defensive contribution points as well. All right, enough monologuing from me then about defensive contribution points. This is how my defence and bench is going to look then. We've got Sanchez in goal. I just think with the Chelsea quality of fixtures, I think they're going to be pretty good defensively this season as well. And I prefer him to the 4.5 million goalkeepers, I've got to say. I'm not sure how Brentford are going to play. And Kelleher is seemingly the choice of like the 4.5 million goalkeepers. Whereas I think you kind of know what you're getting from Chelsea. They got some really competent defenders, a midfield that's sort of good from they're a tough midfield as well in Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez and other players that they'll play. Just think they're going to keep some clean sheets to kick the season off. So I like Sanchez in goal. Virgil van Dijk, Neco Williams and Tarkowski are my 3 defenders. You just can't ignore, in my opinion, the defensive contribution points that Tarkowski got last season. I think he's going to be really good. Neco Williams, he didn't quite appear amongst those top defenders purely because I don't think he played the full season. I think he really came into the fray in the Forest team sort of, 2/3 of the way or a third of the way through the season, I should say. So yeah, he was never going to be one of the top scoring defenders, but I think coming into this season, and he's 5 million as well. He's 0.5 million cheaper than Murillo and Milenkovic, which I think makes quite a difference. And then Van Dijk. I don't trust Gabriel's fitness at this stage. Also, I don't massively like the Arsenal fixtures. I think the Liverpool fixtures are slightly better, even though they play Newcastle and Arsenal in 2 and 3. And I just think Liverpool are a better team. So yeah, I've gone for Van Dijk. I'm really quite content with this defence at this point. Dan Bentley is my 4 million. I mean, who knows? When we get towards the start of the season, there might be a 4 million goalkeeper that emerges as the starter, and then I'll just pick them basically. Anderson, I've had a mixture of De Kuyper. I've had, who else have I had in my team? Wan-Bissaka as well. Other 4.5 million defenders. But it looks like Anderson is going to be really good for these defensive contribution points. And actually, I've disagreed with the expected points data here. By the way, all of the expected points data you see under the players here is courtesy of Fantasy Football Hub. And you can use Fantasy Football Hub to get your team rated by AI for free. You can see the AI rating of this team, by the way, at the end of the video. But you can get your team rated for free using the link in the description below. And if you like what you see when you go into the tool, you can sign up to Fantasy Football Hub using my link in the description below. I'll get you 50% off and your money back if you don't win your mini league. I think that's a pretty good offer. So yeah, I think Anderson is the outstanding 4.5 million defender when you consider defensive contribution points. Steve from Burnley, I just think with the way they played in the Championship last season, being so solid defensively, they kept 30 clean sheets, I think it was. They conceded such a low number of goals in the Championship. With Steve, I think he's going to get defensive contribution points. And I think they're probably the best of the promoted teams in terms of their defence. I've gone for him. And then Mark Gue, who's just signed for Sunderland. I don't really care about him, to be honest. I think he's probably now the best 4.5 million forward. But that deep on my bench, I don't really think I'm ever going to go there. And also, I guess if I'm playing like this, I'm obviously not using my bench boost in Game Week 1. So I think we all know who the best sort of attacking midfielders are in the game, right? I'm sure you've seen enough FPL content at this stage. I'm not necessarily going to talk through those. And I'm not necessarily saying either you should completely fill your midfield with defensive contribution points. But I think at least one, maybe 2 of your midfielders, and certainly in this team it's the case, you should pick players that are going to be good for these points. If you look at Elliot Anderson here, right, he would have scored 143 points last season, and he got 36 defensive contribution points, right? 36 defensive contribution points. What's that in assists? Well, it's 12 assists, isn't it? Elliot Anderson, he's priced at 5.5 million in the game this season. Last season, he got 2 goals and 6 assists. I think he's a really, really good player, and I would actually back him to get more than that this season. But if you add the 36 defensive contribution points, which is 12 assists, to this total, that's 2 goals and 18 assists. That's 20 attacking returns he would have got last season, and he's 5.5 million. If you look at other midfielders that got sort of 20 attacking returns, that's like Morgan Rogers level of playing, and he plays every game. He made 37 appearances last season. So this guy is basically, in terms of attacking returns, well, in terms of points in like defensive contribution points in equivalent, you know what I'm trying to say, making that into attacking returns, he's basically Morgan Rogers in terms of points. That's how I'm seeing him. So he obviously makes my team. My midfield is Salah and Palmer. I just want to go for these 2. I'm a little bit too scared of not owning Salah. I think, there is a genuine case, particularly if Isak joins, to think that Haaland could potentially be a better option this season than Salah. But at least at the start of the season, I just don't want to take that risk. The risk of not having Salah when everyone has him captained and him doing really well, I think could genuinely put you out of contention at the start. And I just don't want to be someone that does that, basically. Palmer, like I said, I think Chelsea have got some really fantastic fixtures. He had a good Club World Cup, looked really good in the competition. I think he's going to come back to the Premier League looking really bright and good. Elliot Anderson, of course. I've just done a whole monologue about how he's probably the equivalent of Morgan Rogers, but 1.5 million cheaper. Rogers, I'd hope he kicks on from last season. He does even better. He's Unai Emery's just absolute favourite, plays every minute of every game. I think he's going to be really good. And Villa, alongside Chelsea, have some of the best fixtures to kick off the season as well. So I'm quite excited about that. And then, to be honest, I have 7.5 million for this spare midfield slot, and I couldn't work out where I wanted to spend it. So for the time being, I've gone for Eze, but I can't say I'm massively excited about Eze. I think he's a great player and a really good FPL option, but I'm just not excited about those opening 3 fixtures. Chelsea, Forest, and Villa do not fill me with massive excitement. I think he's a wonderful player. He ticks all the boxes of a good FPL option, just not massive on, I picked a player that I'm not massive on. I'm also not massive on the likes of Kudus or Njai either. So yeah, maybe Eze could change, but as things stand, that's my midfield. Up front, this team has Watkins and Solanke. I like Watkins because, well, he's currently, I think, 11% ownership, which is relatively low. And I would almost consider him a differential with that ownership, but he's not like a risk. There's nothing risky, I don't think, about picking Ollie Watkins this season. He's got no competition as it stands for his position. So you'd like to think he's going to play every game. Probably not going to take penalties, but he pretty much guarantees you sort of 15 to 20 goals a season. And like I said with Rodgers, Villa's fixtures are really good. So I'm happy with him. Solanke, Son today, this morning, Spurs have tweeted that Son wants to leave the club this summer. Solanke hasn't featured, I don't think, yet in pre-season games, although I have heard that Thomas Frank was hoping he'd be there for the Sunday game that they've got. I don't know who they're playing on Sunday. That's tomorrow at the time I'm recording this video, but they've got a game on Sunday. Thomas Frank's hoping he features in that, and if he doesn't, they've got another friendly against Bayern, and he's hoping. So I think Solanke's going to be fit for the start of the season, basically. And with no Son, I just think the guy's going to be, the Spurs sort of talismanic figure, I'd say. Hopefully taking penalties. He's just kind of an every minute of every game sort of striker, and I'm not necessarily sure he's going to score that many. But I think with the fact he's got a really good all-round game, he could well do all right for defensive contribution points as well. So then, in summary, this team, 62.1 expected points for Game Week 1. I think this is quite possibly, without bench boosting, the highest figure I've had from one of my drafts so far. Got nothing in the bank. Like I said, I spent all the money on Eze, but something could change there. And it gets a 93% AI rating. So like I said, link in the description to get your team rated by AI for free. Click on that, enter your team. You can actually import a screenshot from FPL, so you don't have to manually enter in all your players. I find it really useful. And if you like what you see on Fantasy Football Hub, there's a link to sign up in the description below. 50% off, like I said before, and you get your money back if you don't win your mini league. So yeah, that's my team. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. By the way, if you're wondering what's on my t-shirt, this is the new Bristol City third kit. We've got a pre-season friendly against Valladolid today. I'm going to go to that after this video. So yeah, pretty excited for that one. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Like I said, let me know in the comments what you think of my team and if there's anything you change. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.